Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to meet a man whose career journey is as unpredictable as a game of cricket on a rainy day. Our story begins in the world of media, where he spent 6.5 years with top organizations, wrangling PowerPoints and Excel sheets like a true corporate warrior. But one day, fate gave him a nudge, specifically the realization that Yana Gupta, Bollywood's favorite item number star, was paying more in income tax than most of India's CEOs. And just like that, he knew it was time for a change. He waved goodbye to his days of media and reinvented himself as cricket's stand up comedian, a career twist no one saw coming. His big break was at the 2003 CEAT Cricket Awards, followed by the amateurish 8-minute YouTube video of it, which made him an overnight success. This at a time when going viral was a term only used by tech geeks. Today, his stand up comedy covers everything from politics and Bollywood to marriage counseling. Yes, he offers advice on that too. He has done over 3,000 shows. He wrote a book with the title How Sachin Destroyed My Life, where he hilariously explains Tendulkar's greatness in the context of mere cricketing mortals. Sachin made us feel like genetic garbage in comparison, he says. Just to make the book even more legendary, he got the great man to write the foreword for it. But his talents didn't stop there. He also has a successful YouTube series with over 1.5 million dedicated subscribers who follow it regularly to watch their favorite cricket icons sit down with him for a casual chat, swapping stories, and inevitably getting pulled into his hilarious antics. Despite his packed schedule, he still finds time to support causes that matter to him, proving he's more than just a funny guy. Living life on his own terms, without the usual pressures of material goals or aspirations, he brings laughter wherever he goes. So, without further ado, please welcome the one and only Vikram Sathaye.
My guest today is a very special person. I we are recording this on a Saturday. Vikram Sathaye, thank you so much for making the time out of your very busy schedule to be on this podcast. Why, who, and where? A podcast that looks at success the way it should be looked at. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for telling your listeners that I have a busy schedule. It creates a good impression of me.
Vikram, the humor is never lost. I don't know. It's just I'm a bit I'm with a celebrity today, so I'm a bit. If you see me stuttering or stammering a bit, please know it's all genuine.
You're an opening batsman, Zubin. Come on.
Yes, but sometimes the ball swings a bit, and we all struggle. Vikram, look, there's very little I can probably say as an introduction to you. I mean, there's so much content that's out there by you, on you, for you. But today I probably want to go, you've got a great introduction on LinkedIn, and, about how you switched after 6 years of corporate PPTs and then made your foray, and then you had your 8 minutes of your breakthrough. But I want to probably go back a little more today, into childhood. What were you like as a child, as growing up? What were your hobbies? Maybe just a little bit to give us where the foundation of this person that we know today started.
So yeah, thank you so much. So my childhood, if I mean, my dad was in the Air Force, so we were pretty much all over the place. We started. I was born in actually Bihar because my mother's side was, I mean, based there. My grandfather was a High Court judge there. So the first baby in Bihar, so I was there. And then we slowly went to all places like how typical Fauji kids do in India, Delhi, Bareilly, and there's a Mumbai posting also happened. At some point of time, my parents said that his education is getting affected, so they shifted me to Pune. And from 6th, 7th standard onwards, up until my MBA in marketing from Simbi, I stayed in Pune. And there were two things that I was blessed with as a child. Is one that I had curiosity, and the second is I never took myself seriously. So I had no psychological, physiological disorders. I just was floating. I was just happy with people around me and chatting with them. And that is the time I realized that the only thing I want to do in life is to gather people and chat with them. Now, it may sound very stupid, but to me, that had become an underlying professional need or personal need, which, if you see, when we are talking about chatting on a podcast, I am still doing it with you today, right? So, I played under 15 cricket, and again, cricket was my first love. So, as 1.4 billion people claim, and 1.4 billion people in India claim that they played cricket for their college, and they were captain of their school team. How that was theoretically possible, we don't know. But I also captained my school, and I played college cricket. But then, I always joke, and I've written this in my book, How Sachin Destroyed My Life, that when you played in that generation where Sachin played, and I'm sure you also played in that generation,
Yes,
he made us
absolutely.
he made us look like genetic garbage, right? I always say that in my stand-up. I remember scoring 74 in the under 15 game, and the same day he scored 324 in the Harris Shield game, and life changed. My mother didn't even congratulate me. So after that, the benchmarks were so different in our times that you just had to be at least a 10% of Tendulkar. And then that is the time I realized that my cricketing future was limited. Though I played Kuch Bihar under 19, I was in the probables. But then somewhere at some point of time, the middle class gene kicked in and said that, you've got to do your graduation, get your MBA, get your first 10,000 rupees salary, and then you decide what is to be done. The good part was that I was blessed with no material needs. As I said today, also, the only kick I have is get people like you, get a drink, and chat about life and cricket. So,
Wonderful.
luckily, I was not diverted by the conventional things of you need to be a doctor. Yes, you get affected by peer groups, but I was very clear. I am doing an MBA in marketing just to safeguard myself, because my dad has said that this is what we can give you, education. After that, you have to figure it out. And obviously, in our times, Harsha was an example, Harsha Bhogle, that here's a guy who also did a similar path. So I said, okay, fine. All of the generation were looking up to him. So let's do that. And then just shift to what you want to do next. And that is the journey ahead.
Were you very mischievous as a child?
I was not mischievous, but I was somebody who imitated people a lot. So my grandmother would
So
be
that's
always,
that's where it comes from.
yeah,
That's where it
yeah.
comes from.
Because observation and curiosity is works in combination, right? So if you're curious about something, about how people are behaving, that automatically, and every child is an impersonator. I don't know of a single child who doesn't impersonate. Only thing is that
Well said.
once your rationality comes into being, you start taking yourself seriously. And I've always believed there is only two lessons that you need to take in life. One is be curious, and the second is don't take yourself seriously. If you can do that, you will sail through life without any hindrances.
There's a very famous line. I know you use anecdotes in your presentations and your um, interviews and whatnot. There's a very famous line from General George Patton of World War II fame,
Yeah.
where he says, "It's a shame the world grew up." I think just generally speaking, also, what we have as children, and you made a very good point. Children love doing mimicry. They love doing, and then the real world kicks in and kind of starts suppressing that. Uh, you still started the conventional way. I mean, you did your MBA marketing, and then you did take up a job and you worked for corporates. Anyone going to LinkedIn can see that on your profile. Uh, Tell us, what was that moment where you felt, what you really felt that you had to do something else? We can read what you've written, but when was it that you actually thought, what we may even call defining moment, that you decided to pursue this career that you took up eventually?
So, from college days, I mean, I was imitating people, and, during my graduation also, people would make me stand on the road and imitate Tony Gregg. And, I used to imitate Richie Beno, because Tony and Richie were like my heroes at that time when it came to commentary. And I didn't even know that this would be a career option, right? Because at that point of time, there was no English stand-up comedy. So I used to do all of this, but I realized that something is working, right? People are laughing, which means, and
Yes,
for me,
I'm
it was just
laughing as I'm thinking of it right now. That your
so
narration of
that
Tony, your impersonation of Tony Gregg
typical,
is brilliant.
what a prize, Sachin Tendulkar's on fire, smash the Aussies all over the place. And I would do these imitations even in college, and everybody would be laughing. And I was like, yeah, it's okay. I mean, I do this anyway at home. I'm imitating my grandmother, my mother, and all of that. So it's a normal thing. Now, what happened was, after the MBA, when I joined music television, up until now, I'm a I'm a fun guy. I do all my impersonations, but I am a private person. I'm not a social person. I have a massive attention deficit. I don't call it a disorder or whatever, but I have an attention span issue. And so therefore I don't go deep into the issues. And I always say that you need to have a high attention span in this world today for deeper relationships. And the reason why technology is a little bit of a problem is because the relationships are getting affected by technology. And it's
Correct.
not just connecting on Facebook, it's about spending that quality time. Anyway, so when I came to MTV, I realized that the MTV philosophy was unbelievable. It was based on a principle called wackiness quotient, which means wackiness was celebrated in this organization. And I was like, what the hell? Like, how does this even work? There are organizations who pay you money for how crazy you are. And that to me was that big change from a middle class Maharashtrian family in Pune to come and say, hey, now I can crack a stupid joke and I may get appreciated for it, right? And in one of these instances in an MTV conference, I gave them an idea about how to launch a joint credit card with Citibank. And I just randomly gave them an idea that the best way to launch is to create surprise. You send from Mukesh Ambani to Anand Mahindra, you should send them fake bills of crores of rupees. And on the backside, when they figure out it's MTV Bakra, launch of the MTV Citibank card. That idea just, I mean, Bombay Times covered it, the whole, and I realized, like, I am doing this in school and college on a regular basis and nobody appreciated me. But Zubin, that was a turning point. And I realized that, hey, whatever I am doing personally with my friends and colleagues, I don't know whether it's a profession, but there is something out there. And as I go back, Zubin, for me, the goal in life was to chat cricket. There is no other goal I have in life. I mean, I got actually late last night. I came at 4 in the morning because there was a Shankar Mahadevan, the singer, has a all-night Ganpati music festival. So we do the
Wow.
aarti and all-night musicians come and sing. So I was there. Sachin Tendulkar was also there, and there also 5 minutes with him, we will be talking about trigger movement because that's my kick. That's my money that I've earned in my life. I am a unicorn at the age of 25 because I could chat with Sachin on what is going wrong with his leg side play. I mean, nothing was going wrong, but I'm saying what were the issues. Now you can't quantify this with wealth, right? And I knew that somewhere, hey, I want to be around cricket. I want to chat with the cricketers. I was a failed cricketer. So what do you do to be around this world? That is it. That was my goal. And most importantly, as I said, the key part to this was I had no material ambitions. And to me, I mean, there's no, when I tell young kids in college that, if you taper down that need to have the Louis Vuittons and stuff, life just opens, right? Because you don't get stuck with things which are unnecessarily in your world. Having said that, mandatory is important. You need your
Of
basic things in
course.
place. So I'm not saying I'm in the Himalayas and stuff like that, but that basic thing is not as large as you think, and
Very well
that
said.
many of us have already achieved it 20 years back, but the story doesn't end there. You want more and more. But for me, it was very clear: be around cricket, and that's how the journey of stand-up started. When we actually reached there, I'll tell you.
I don't know if my next question will make sense, and I'm saying that as a tribute to your personality, because you seem to be very effervescent, you're positive, and as you said, you had very few, your material needs were very, very few. But for the benefit of others who are aspiring to, maybe take on an alternative career or take on stand-up comedy or mimicry or entertainment as a career, um, what kind of challenges did you face? As the first 100 is easy, right? As they say in cricket, or your first inning, you get rid of your nerves, but then comes the bigger responsibility, the higher expectation. What were the challenges that you faced in the early years, and then how did you? I guess they kept increasing with time, or what's your approach to them?
So I feel that if you are following a conventional path, the challenges sometimes are irritating because there are too many walls in it. When you chart a new territory, there will be challenges, but the gates are also open, right? You can discover paths within. And again, it comes from a point of view that, hey, I don't want to become the greatest comedian in the world. For me, it's very simple. This is something that I enjoy. I'm going to explore this and I will find a way out. If there is a wall there, I will find another way out. Because for me, the journey is very interesting. The moment I would have said that, hey, I want to be the greatest comedian and I want a 1 hour special on Netflix in the US, you already, it's a great thing. And I tell corporate employees that you should have a goal and all. But my definition of goal is more, in the journey rather than the end result. And that is why most creative people I have seen actually don't put a very concrete goal to themselves, because that takes them away from the current job. And in cricket, you've seen, Zubin, that the moment you start thinking of the 100, you give an edge to second slip, right? It is about one ball at a time. And I think that's the greatest philosophy that cricket has taught me and taught probably many others. How do you play the ball which is being bowled to you? And unfortunately, many a times, the distraction, and every time I meet Sachin or any of these guys, I say, how do you block that 90,000 people shouting Sachin, Sachin? And he always tells me that, you know what, I was built to block it. I knew that for me, the joy was watching the ball. So automatically that process happened. Now he's a genius, right? We are not that. But what he's telling us is that when your goal is the ball watching, then all the other problems kind of, get away and you find your path. Easier said than done. It's, the guys who've executed it is good. But to me, what made me, the biggest challenge was, I was vice president marketing. Now yes, I am not for money and all, but I was used to a certain lifestyle. But again, I said, you know what, I'll go back to the job. But to me, this is getting me closer to cricket. People are liking my jokes. If there is some way I can start touring with the Indian team, I'll be very happy. Now, somebody might say that this is also a material goal. I don't know what kind of goal, but for me, it is very simple to describe. Can I do something around cricket? So the clearer goal you have, the pathways kind of come relatively easier than when you put a goal of, in 5 years, I want to reach this. That kind of clouds your current. And I think if that happens, then you struggle. So the challenge was very simple. There was no English stand-up comedy. What do I need to do to end? Okay, corporates was the only way where we could perform, right? The good news was that I could understand corporate jargon. I knew the mindset of senior management, middle management. Luckily, I had cricket. Nobody did cricket comedy. So the moment it started clicking, then I said, okay, now let me take 10 minutes to 15 minutes, 15 to 20. I started using the language that corporate employees like. And slowly I started correlating the cricket world to the corporate world. Now that was because I was a curious guy and I wanted to do it, right? So basic talent is there, but I never worried about the outcome. Now it may be, I mean, in corporate life, outcome is a very important metric, but I don't think it should. Sometimes it clouds your current. I never faced a challenge, because when I faced a challenge, one of the biggest challenges I faced was 2006 when I was at India's tour to South Africa as a commentator. After Harsha Bogle, the first person to have actually got a seat in the commentary box, right? Now, I am a humorist. The moment you have a humorist in the commentary box, the attention will always come to you, right? Because wit and fun will always rule the world. Unfortunately, I got a pushback from senior cricketers in the commentary box, right? That is that was the time I realized that it's a domain, right? You have to struggle very hard to be nice to them and do that journey. And I said, hey, anything that is causing conflict, I'm a non-conflict person. I call myself a happiness broker. I'm in the business of spreading joy. If I'm going to get affected by it, this is not going to work. And I took a conscious decision to not do commentary ever again, but be the entertainer on the side who will entertain audience. Now, some person might have said, no, I'm going to prove to these ex-cricketers, which Harsha did, because Harsha knew his passion was broadcast. He suffered hugely because of the backlash from the ex-cricketers domain. But he knew that cricket broadcast is my goal. My goal was not that. My goal was to tell story. And broadcast doesn't allow you to tell stories because you and me have not played 100 test matches, right?
Yes.
So our credibility will always be in play and you'll always be looked at as an inferior person. And I've always argued that, hey, cricket is not about what happens on the 22 yards. There is so much more to the world. And that is the reason I did the What the Duck show. So when you hear of Ashwin's philosophy and how he bowled to Sehwag, or Sachin talking about how he picked the reverse swing of Pedro Collins, this is not that they discuss in the commentary box. It's about the ball was out of the off stump and he should have left the ball. And for me, it was about the stories. And I thank my stars that I just took that path of, turning my, this thing wheels and going in a way which was more in my direction rather than something that I should want to prove to somebody that I'm going to come and hit you hard there. So I think that philosophically, just do your journey. Don't worry about the outcome, and so many things open up. But remember, curious and don't take yourself too seriously. Yeah, the moment you cut down your ego, half the problems in life get solved.
Yeah, ego probably creates, that many more problems.
It's so intrinsic, Zubin, that it's very difficult to get over it. Somebody says that, Arey yaar, kya joke bekar mara yaar tune. The first reaction is, what do you know yaar, about comedy? But it's not worth a battle fighting, right? So it just takes too much energy out of you. Easier said than done, but I think I managed to do it to 25%.
I think anyone who has, like you said about Harsha, right? I've been a big fan of his as well. And in fact, I've read a couple of his books, but even he has evolved over time. I mean, I think he was a very analyst kind of commentator. And then from there, he went on to become the storyteller that we now know. His commentary became so much more fun.
He is brilliant because his ability to remember incidents from the past and correlate it to current incident is something I've never seen with anybody. And the way he puts his thoughts to words, right? And it's a very difficult job, Zubin, because you have to make all the other co-commentators look good as a presenter, right? You have the producer talking to you in the ears. You have to watch what is going live. And when I say most cricketers who do commentary, I mean, their preparation may not be the best in the world. And maybe they don't, because they believe that what they pick out of the game is good enough. But I have seen people in the past, like Tony Gregg and Richie Benoit, whose prep was very solid, right?
Phenomenal.
Who believed in talking to the younger cricketers, understanding their world. Harsha does it, right? And it's not easy today. Like, I am also 50 now. So the thing is that if I had a query about, say, for example, why Zahir was bowling a certain way, I would meet him somewhere in the lobby and I ask him the question. But today, the guys who are bowling are our sons and daughters' age, right? So yes, because your wit and all can whatever, but still you become a sir for them. And it is very imperative that even me to now say that, even if Prithvi Shaw, suppose, doesn't answer my phone call, it's okay. But will the ex-cricketers be able to take that? remember, the current cricketer is the king of the jungle. Your time is over. And
Absolutely.
the moment you understand that and you say, okay, fine, I may have scored 5,000 runs in Test cricket, but today I need to go to Rian Parag and understand his world, right? And as a creator, as a writer, if you don't have the humility to understand other people's world, your commentary will never be good. It will be just a reactive commentary on what's being seen, which is useless right now because everybody is seeing it with 27 cameras on television.
Right.
What can you do to add that little bit of tadka is what makes great broadcasting, something that Nasir Hussain does beautifully well, right?
He does. He's exceptional.
He's excellent.
He
And
came out with a
Harsha,
great tribute yesterday to Shane Warne.
beautiful.
Oh, beautiful. Where he's read that poem on Shane Warne's birthday, right? So which is quite amazing.
So that was the core principle, I think, which Harsha did beautifully well, because he has that humility to go down. And I mean, at the end of the day, he's Harsha Bhogle. Even a 25-year-old, like his father will say, go and first touch his feet, even if you played cricket. But Harsha
Correct.
would tone down. And I think that's the one lesson that the world changes. The current generation is the hero. If you want to be better in your job, just say hello, break ice, and don't go with that ego. Otherwise, you'll never learn and you'll never be better.
That is such great advice, Vikram, because, actually you preempted one of my questions, which talked about a setback. And you talked about your experience in the commentary room. And any other major setback that you probably had to overcome?
Not really. The biggest regret I have in life is because I was so happy in what I got early in life, right? I mean, again, you played cricket. You know how important it is to our soul, right? And I like sport in general. And in the last 5, 6 years, I have actually focused my life on tennis, and I've gone to see all the Grand Slams. And I've spent, thanks to my friend Rohan Bopanna, I could actually go inside the Aussie Open and Wimbledon, and he showed me how the players practice and stuff like that. And this is it's gold dust, right? You can't,
Yes.
for a sports lover, it can't be better than this. And thankfully, the Almighty gave me this access in the world of cricket as well. So I had achieved everything because my achievement was only about hanging with cricket and understanding the world. My achievement was never about I'm going to build this, I'm going to do that. So because I achieved it, everything after that was beautiful. I mean, I know it sounds very bizarre, and that's why I said in the beginning that it was such a beautiful world that I just kept going, and I realized that I should have set some more targets to myself in terms of even the work I was doing, put more out there, just putting What the Dark, maybe a book. I could have probably done 10 more pieces of flagship content. But sometimes creativity is driven by urgency, or for that matter, discontent in your emotions. Creativity flows when there is discontent with what is happening in your head. But when you're content, like, I just didn't feel the need. And today at 50, I look back and said, I have so much to say, and I need to put my next whatever years that I have, every 6 months, put out something just for the sake of putting it out. But because at that time I had the need to, hey, I want to talk about cricket. This all, and What the Duck was what, right? I was frustrated that the stories were not coming out of the
Yes.
cricketing. So that's why when I put Sachin and Sehwag together, I said, hey, now this is going to be great. And it's nothing about fans. It's me wanting to dig deeper in how their chemistry works and how it works. So there was a need, and if there is no need, there is no creativity. So I felt my needs got satisfied of hanging out with cricketers very fast. So I kind of dipped down on my output.
Because I've been in technology all my life, and it's a question. I think technology has evolved so much over the years. How much has it helped your career? Although you don't work, I think it's helped everyone's careers. But has technology played a part in your career somewhere, you think?
So I would say, let's look at it from a creative industry point of view, right? So personally, answers will be cliche and stuff like that. But what it
Yes.
has done is, for a creative person, technology has given you access to worlds which you would have never reached, right? And you meet, and when I meet people like you, like for example, I'm doing a show next week for a private equity firm. A large part of their portfolio is AI, health tech, education. Just reading through their portfolio companies, I could think of 4 ideas that I can incorporate in my talk to them, which is
Right.
mixed creative technology and some ideas. Now imagine, what is creativity? Creativity is about putting ideas together and giving an unconventional output. But in the past, when you didn't have technology, you would read books, make points, and then you would make a joke or you would write a script. But today, look at the inputs you can get. And now you're competing with ChatGPT, because with those inputs, the ChatGPT might give you a better script than you. So I think that just the fact that so many avenues are there for you to input in your creative balloon, that when actually it bursts, it can come out with things which would have never happened in the past.
Right.
So it's a
Right.
huge enabler. Uh, and obviously, when the hardware part of it, the fact that today there is something called as the influencer industry. Who would have thought 20 years back that apart from television stars or cricket stars or Bollywood stars, there will be an industry which will affect consumer behavior, thereby FMCG is allocating 4 to 8%, or in the future, my prediction is 25% of their budgets to influencer marketing.
Right.
Which means look at the creative canvas now. Somebody can just draw paintings on reels and put it out there, and they can get brands to come and sponsor them. And now with esports and the avenues that are happening with virtual reality, for example, the other day I saw some technology in Singapore where they were building theaters where you could actually experience a cricket and a football match as if you've gone inside the stadium with
Yes.
that kind of an effect, right? So the entertainment economy, thanks to technology, has gone to the next level.
Yes. Yes. There was a video online also, I think, of somewhere in California, where they've created a field side seat for a Manchester United, and can't remember who the other. I'm not that much into the English Premier League, but they had created a ringside seat experience, which is phenomenal. I mean, the impact of that. So it's sport, technology, F&B, all coming together, all enabled by technology.
Right? You could actually make comments there, and you could link it to so many of the other guys, and you could have a chat online. The other day, I went to an office and I experienced that VR machine. And what they have done is it's approved by the ICC, and you could actually you're standing as a batsman, and you could actually get a sense of the pace of Jasprit Bumrah, or for that matter, Pat Cummins. And while I mean, at that point of time when I was using those machines, I was Rohit Sharma. And I saw that pull shot and I realized that what is the amount of time that you require. And that is why that front foot pull shot for me is so beautiful, because all our life we were taught to play the pull shot with a back foot, going on the back foot. And this guy is with
rolling the wrist.
He's just doing this. So
incredible.
I told these guys that just let me play this shot in my mind thanks to your VR machines. At least I want to get the enjoyment of playing a Rohit Sharma pull shot.
How do you balance work life, Vikram? Given how busy you are, and is there any do you set any rules for yourself, or do you just do you not plan too much? Do you plan? How do you go about managing the things you want to do and the things you have to do?
So one thing about the great Gulzar Saab has said that the creativity is 90% discipline, and I think that is something I have failed at, and it goes back to the thing that when you're not driven, you kind of just sail through life. But one of the few things that definitely work for me is that creativity is about getting that time to think, right? And the greatest inventions have happened when people are doing nothing. So I really believe that hanging out and doing nothing is the time when your brain is constructing a thought. And
Yes,
many a times people forget, and that's why even in sports, Zubin, you'll realize that the recovery period is as important as the workout period. And
correct.
to me, hanging out with friends and spending that time with yourself is the time where your brain is connecting all that you have read and stuff like that. So that time I give to myself. I have 6 notebooks on different topics, and I will sit. I'll take an article, and one of the great playwrights of the past, the great Vijay Tendulkar, had told me that the one thing about a creative brain and a writer, whether it's a comedian or for that matter any human being, even for a corporate employee, is to look at the same observation from 20 different ways, right? And this is something I practice, and I think every individual in the world should practice. Which means that now you and me are recording a podcast, okay? And I'm talking random stuff right now. What is your family thinking about the podcast? My guy who's waiting for me to give me coffee right now, what is he thinking? What is his guy who gives him his salary doing? The CEO of Zoom, what is he doing? They're all part of this ecosystem. But when you look at a problem or you look at an observation and try to hammer it from various perspectives, you will realize compartments of your brain opening which have never opened. And to me, humor comes out, or great writing comes out, because you can, when they say you have to empathize with the character, right? And that is why empathy to me is the biggest skill that you should learn in school and college. The first thing we should be taught in junior KG, senior KG, as we say in India, is can you think for the other person? I think if we teach this one thing to human beings right from the beginning, you will be a better manager, you will be a better human being, you will be a better father, you will kill it in all relationships. The challenge is your ego doesn't allow. And in the teens, as you have noticed, in the teens, you're so self-obsessed that your ability to think about the other person dies. You mature after a while, realizing that it's not about me, it's about we, right? And I jokingly said on LinkedIn the other day, there are a lot of CEOs I know have remained teens for the rest of their life
Yes,
because,
yes.
because they're not able to overcome. So I do believe great innovation, great creativity, great managerial ability will come by the ability to empathize, not in the conventional way of what the person's going through. That's one part, but what the elements around your problem are going through. And I think that perspective changes the way you write your content, the way you put your content, and the way you succeed in solving that problem as well.
That's uh, very profound, Vikram. Um, is there anything you would have done differently in life? I mean, any regrets? Maybe regrets is too big a word, but I heard you say a little while ago, maybe I should have had more goals. But is that really? I mean, is there anything you would have done differently?
So it is a regret, no doubt about it. I just reread actually Meghna Gulzar's book on Gulzar Sahab, and uh, and I was astounded by the quantum of work these people do in their lifespan, right? Whether it is Gulzar, whether it's Rabindranath Tagore, whether it is Maharashtra's icon Pula Deshpande. It is unbelievable that Gulzar Sahab wrote, say, around 120 odd books for children, for in poetry, in Urdu poetry, and all of that. While he was doing this, he directed 20 films. He
Amazing.
probably he probably wrote scripts for another 35 films. He at the same time wrote probably 800 to 1000 lyrics of songs. And while he was doing this, he played a single father's job to his daughter, and he used to write poetry for her probably once a week. And I was like, hey man, I may not be Gulzar, but if I would have just, you know, focused a little bit and put some targets, my own output and need to put things out, I would have probably be 100x by now. So coming back to the original managerial thought that I had learned, the small targets is the way to go for creative people also. Because here also, it's about writing that one good scene, right? And I look at their body of work and I say, hey man, this is not fair. And I've always said this when people complain about the trash that is happening on social media, trash that is happening in entertainment, trash that is happening in how people behave with each other. It is our moral responsibility of all of us who believe and put our, like this podcast is, there is content which you do for content's sake, and there's content which you do to inspire. And when you said that line, that even if one person sees this and says, hey, I was entertained and I took away, that's enough. You don't need to change the world, because it's sometimes that one person will change the world on your behalf. So that power of one is
Well
very,
said.
very, very, very critical. And that is why it is our moral duty to put as much good content in the pond of communication, because the only way to fight bad content is to keep putting one drop of good content everywhere. For every abuse or every 100 abuse, there needs to be one learning, right? So I think
Wonderful.
I probably did not do it in the last 10 to 15, 10 years at least, that I should have put in more out there. Maybe some other 10 more people would have gotten benefited out of it. Maybe I would have learned from those 10 people. So I've lost a lot, not only because I think that I can give to the world, but I have to take interesting stories from the world as well, right? So I think that part I have missed out on, but which I'm going to course correct now going forward.
Wonderful, wonderful. Again, what you said is so right about, the power of one, and how it can make this impact. As I close out on these discussions, I always ask my guest if there is a mantra or advice that they would like to share with, and I'm only going to say youngsters. We are now, we've got the 50 already. This is the 50 that we'll get, and hopefully, if life is good to us, we'll get 100. But there are so many who are starting out in their inning. They're still in their 20s, 30s, and early 40s. Is there a mantra or advice that you would share with them in whatever it is they pursue or do with their lives?
Biggest mistake you can do to the young generation is to give them advice.
Wow.
But
Wow.
I think couple of points I'd like to mention. That one is, when you say that we are not young, I think that young and old is, and I'm not even giving you the cliche, it's in the mind and all of that stuff. Like, it's a journey, boss. It is just after 10 years, the journey will be 10 years old and it will go. You have limited time, live it, right? So it doesn't matter. Sumner Redstone started Viacom when he was 66. For him, it was a journey. It was the beginning of what he thought was a great idea. So first of all, and I'm not saying it for youngsters, but I'm saying it for all the people. At 97, my grandfather one day came and said that nowadays Bipasha Basu is not doing films or what. He was queued on to everything. He never thought he was 90. And today, honestly, Zubin, my friends joke saying that because you're single and you decided not to get married, you are saying all of this once you get married and the kids like that. But no, I know friends who have remained as they were at 18 years of age. Yes, responsibilities keep on changing. So that's one part. Second, I think take your work seriously, don't take yourself seriously. I genuinely believe in this mantra. Your journey is मजेदार होना चाहिए. खुद को importance इतना मत दो, because that takes you away from the journey. And if you can cut down on your stupid needs, life becomes so much better.
So, I'm going to use one of those as the caption for this interview. Take your work seriously, not yourself. It sounds, I think sometimes our whole identity, especially, people who've been in corporates and, bureaucrats or people with titles, right? Like vice president, senior vice president, managing director. I think there's a vacuum when that gets left behind, right? And that also has a big impact on lives. I think people become their title.
It does.
And not the person that they are.
And it's not easy also for them. So I mean, yes, it's okay to give these big lines on podcasts, but in that corporate structure, and I've been for 7 8 years in that structure, it is built in such a way that you're managing bigger teams, and therefore you have to maintain distance. So your conditioning is such that you are part of a hierarchical structure which is about command at certain levels, then trying to befriend them when they are not. So in that complexity we forget what our personal goals in life are, or what our philosophies are. So I mean, it's easier said than done, because I have left the corporate world and I live my own life, so I can give these gyan. But I have seen some people who are able to do that even in the structure that they are working, right? And that, I think, is what the journey for many people who are stuck in the big hierarchical structure need to catch on to.
Wonderful, Vikram. I think that's the empathy of the man that you are, saying that, I've just realized today how you find a wonderful way to kind of accept, explain, and then even talk about how you can positively impact. This has been such a wonderful, wonderful experience today. I am very grateful that you were able to take the time out on a Saturday morning for all of us. I'm sure this is going to inspire many, many people going forward.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much,
being.
Rupen. Sorry, you introduced me as a stand-up comedian and started giving gyan, but
No. Please, this is this is the other side of you that we really wanted people to see, in how you think and how you've gone about. They'll see so much more of you in the future through YouTube, direct, indirect, in person, and hopefully I'm there for one of those shows in person as well in the future. And I might just bump into you at the Boxing Day test end of the
oh,
year.
that would
So
be
you never
amazing.
know. That is because cricket. And by the way, if you can't find anyone to talk cricket, even if it's halfway through the night, I'll send you my number. Just call. We can talk cricket anytime. Absolutely anytime. Vikram, thank you so much.
I'll take that offer.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you, Vikram.
Thank you for it.